It's time now to go around the country to get the latest recruiting intel. You will hear from national recruiting analysts Tom Loy, Brandon Huffman, Mike Roach, and our own Blair Angulo. Let's hear from Tom to start off the recruiting roundup.
Today, I want to look at 3 top prospects, including a 5-star. Let's start with Nashville, Tennessee, Lipscomb Academy 3-star safety CJ Jimcoily. He is days away from a commitment. His date is set for August 8th. He'll choose among 4 finalists. You got Alabama, LSU, Stanford, and Tennessee. Early on, most people assumed he would be a volunteer and stay in state. Then there was some chatter about Alabama. Over the last couple of months, a lot of talk has been around Stanford. He's a high academic kid and a perfect fit with the Cardinal. But leading up to his decision, my 24/7 Sports crystal ball is on the LSU Tigers. I think he's a perfect fit in that defense. I think that staff has out-recruited everybody and made him a priority. I like LSU to get that one done. Let's move on to Charlotte, North Carolina, Providence Day School 5-star offensive tackle David Sanders Jr. Now, his 4 finalists have been set for a while. You got Georgia, Nebraska, Ohio State, and Tennessee. Heading into his decision, I don't want to rule out Nebraska, but I'm kind of leaning towards Ohio State and Tennessee. And if you really force me to put in a prediction, I would lean towards the Volunteers at this point. I think Tennessee's done a tremendous job. They obviously just picked up Faison Brandon, the #1 player in the 2026 class and a 5-star quarterback. And I think Tennessee can get this one done with David Sanders Jr. Again, not ruling out any finalists at this point, but that's kind of where my head's at just a week or 2 leading into his final decision. Now let's move on to Lucedale, Mississippi, George County, top 100 quarterback Deuce Knight. Now, why are we talking about Deuce? He's been a long-time commit for Notre Dame because there's 2 SEC schools very much in play that you need to keep an eye on, Auburn and Ole Miss. We've talked about them for a while, especially Auburn. Since about the start of July, Auburn really started turning up the heat. And honestly, to be completely honest, if you forced me to make a prediction right now, and if I was going to change my original crystal ball pick that had him landing, which was correct at Notre Dame, I would lean towards the Tigers at this point. I think Auburn is setting themselves up for great success here. They've done a tremendous job recruiting him since the start of July. They were all in on Julian Lewis, the current USC quarterback commit. But since July 1st, they have been doing nothing but pushing for Deuce Knight, and I feel like it's resonating. Now, Notre Dame is doing all they can to keep him. Marcus Freeman, Chad Bowden, Gino Guidugli, they badly want Deuce Knight in the class, and they're still pushing for it. Now, there's some hope, but I wouldn't call it optimism in South Bend. When you talk to people connected with Auburn, there's more optimism than just hope. So kind of thinking Auburn gets that one done with Deuce Knight. That would be a massive pickup for what is a very, very strong class for Auburn. Now let's head west to hear from national analyst Brandon Huffman.
Thanks, Tom. Well, the majority of the top players in the state of Hawaii have made their commitments in the class of 2025, but there's still one uncommitted player in the state that a lot of schools are after. Manamou'Ui Muti out of Lelehua, the top 12 player in the state in 2025, took official visits to the University of California, Arizona, and UCLA during the spring of the official variety. But then he took an unofficial visit to Washington the final weekend of July when the Huskies hosted their luau on Montlake. Now, the Huskies have made a late surge, but the recruitment of Muti goes back to when Brandon Carroll and Jed Fish were at the University of Arizona. One of the earliest offers that they gave him was from Arizona. They continued to recruit him, even though they didn't get him on campus for an official visit, but getting him during that one weekend in July definitely made an impact on Muti, who said he's getting closer to a decision. Now, Cal, Arizona, and UCLA are all hoping those official visits matter, but Washington's making this late surge, and then getting him for that unofficial certainly has an impact for the Huskies. Speaking of the Huskies, they also hosted Kenneth Moore out of St. Mary's High School in Stockton, California in the 2026 class for that same weekend. And then Moore went back down to California, went down to Southern California, and took an unofficial visit to UCLA for the Bruins barbecue and pool party. Now, it's looking like the Huskies are in a good spot for him as well as the Bruins, but an offer from Stanford this last week is certainly resonating with Moore, an outstanding student and outstanding football and track player. His dad played at Washington State, so a little Apple Cup rivalry there with the Huskies making the search for him. UCLA offering an opportunity to stay in state, but then Stanford coming in recently with that offer, an offer that he coveted, is certainly going to put the Cardinal in the mix for him. I don't anticipate a decision coming before his season starts, but I wouldn't be surprised if a decision comes this fall. And I think the Bruins, the Huskies, and the Cardinal are the 3 schools that are going to be in this one all the way to the end. Now we send it now to Mike Roach.
Thanks, Huff. There aren't many uncommitted prospects left in the state of Texas, but one of the highest rated players in the Lone Star State will make his decision this week when 5-star Saxe, Texas wide receiver Kaliq Lockett comes off the board August 7th, Wednesday, here on 24/7 Sports Live. Lockett is deciding between Texas, Texas A&M, LSU, Florida State, and Alabama. And it's coming down to the wire between two of these teams. My crystal ball pick is on Texas. It has been for about the last month, but Alabama continues to make a push, has continued since they hosted Lockett late in June on a surprise official visit. With just 48 hours to go on the decision, I really like where Texas stands here, though. They've been persistent with Lockett. They've got some home state appeal, and I think Lockett really likes his fit within Steve Sarkisian's offense. I think he feels like he can play inside there, he can play outside. He's seen kind of the development that Texas has had at the wide receiver position over the last 2 years. It's going to come down to Wednesday. We'll see when he makes his decision, but I like Texas for Lockett. On the other side of the spectrum, 5-star athlete Michael Terry from San Antonio Alamo Heights in the state of Texas may be pushing his decision back. I talked to Terry over the weekend following some late July trips he took to Texas, Oregon, and Nebraska. And he's talking about potentially taking this decision into the fall. He kind of had it set in his mind, a hardline decision for the summer, late July, early August. And for what he told me, this decision's becoming so difficult. He really wants to take his time and make sure he's doing the right thing. So while he hasn't decided either way on when it will be, he told me he would lean and be open to making a decision this fall and taking as much time as he needs. So this looked originally like a Texas and Oregon battle. I think Nebraska is hanging around here enough to be dangerous. He was just supposed to visit Texas and Oregon at the end of July. Nebraska got in there, were able to steal a late visit from him. They were the last visit. And, that was a school that originally showed interest in Terry. I think that they're one to watch in this race as we see how it boils down, as he has these decisions with his family. And look, if he wants to get this decision in before the season kicks off, like he said in the past, high school practices in Texas kick off this week. So he's going to have to move quickly if he wants those to get those in before his senior season. For more out west, we're going to go to Blair Angulo.
Thanks, Mike. It is decision week out west for top 24/7 offensive lineman Aaron Dunn. He is set to reveal his choice this week on August 8th during the 24/7 Sports live show right here on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. It's the in-state schools, BYU and Utah, battling it out against Oregon, UCLA, and USC. They make up those final five. The Trojans had significant buzz for Dunn after the official visit in May. Oregon seemed to wrangle some of that away, though, last month when he made it up to Eugene. That's been a big appeal, but don't sleep on the two in-state programs, BYU, Utah, the first two offers, the first two schools that he felt the most comfortable with. They would be huge. He would be a huge win for both of those schools. A big priority target in-state, 6'8", 280-pound offensive lineman who can do a little bit of everything from a pass protection standpoint, from a run blocking standpoint as well. And this one could go either way as we head down the stretch here towards the finish line. One player that is already coming off the board this week to one that is probably a year away from coming off the board, that would be Trent Mosley, one of the top wide receiver prospects out west in the 2026 class out of Santa Margarita Catholic in Southern California. He is down right now to some schools that are pushing the hardest, and that would be Notre Dame, Stanford, UCLA, and USC. He mentioned that Stanford is showing a lot of love. His brother Emmett is a wide receiver with the Cardinal. He is a Notre Dame legacy, though. Both of his parents are alums. He used to live in the Chicago area, so I wouldn't discount the Irish and might even give them the edge at this point. The local schools, UCLA and USC, will likely be getting visits from Trent Mosley this season, and the important thing for him is going to be able to see how the slot receiver looks in some of these offenses. Notre Dame with a new offensive coordinator, and he wants to see what that looks like. Stanford, obviously, with a second-year coach and trying to see how their offense is able to evolve. And then UCLA locally, Eric Frazier being the new receivers coach there with the Bruins, and Eric Bieniemy being the offensive coordinator. So usage and the offensive outlook this season will be big for Trent Mosley as he continues to narrow down his recruiting choices.
Thank you, Blair. Not that I am biased in the least bit, but we have the best recruiting team that there is. So check out more of their work at 247sports.com. Also, today is the last day to get 60% off of annual VIP membership. So go take advantage at 247sports.com.